we have to bring on our special guest, Spartan Illustrated, Michigan State rivals own Ryan O'Bleness joins us, Sparta MSU. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hey guys, how you doing? Glad to be here.
Good to have you, brother.
I know you guys are all legends to me. I grew up watching you, so I really appreciate you bringing me on.
Oh man, you're trying to make us feel old now.
Yeah, old, man.
No, I mean, I'm talking about high school and whatever too. For Otis, at least.
Otis is the one that's sticking out, man. That sweater is swagalicious. Listen, Ryan, I know you've been busy the last couple of days here, especially with all the new commitments and things jumping off of the paper at everyone right now. I mean, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is on fire. What have you been seeing, and noticing in the last 48 hours, and what's going to go on into the signing day tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been just a whirlwind. It's been crazy. I think you got to really tip your cap to what the staff's been able to do in 3 weeks. Some of these coaches have been here for less than that. So, it's really pretty amazing because not only were they able to re-recruit the current commits, keep them committed, keep them locked in to buy into the vision, they went out and they got, the relationships and the commits that they already had at Oregon State, and they were able to bring in a bunch of those guys, and they were able to flip some other guys from other schools. They're bringing in some really good transfers who can be instant impact. So yeah, I mean the thing that really stood out to me talking to all these different recruits, and what it comes back to with them is just, I think, the genuineness of the staff. What you see is what you get with them. They have a vision for you, and they have a plan for it. And I think that they showed taking over that Oregon State program that, was in bad shape when Smith was first hired, how they turned that, into a really good program, really competitive program. So, a lot of these recruits, and especially the ones who came over from Oregon State, believe that that's what they're going to do at Michigan State as well.
So, Ryan, so you said you talked to some of these recruits and, they have that sense of belief. What else, did these recruits tell you about this coaching staff? Because this coaching staff, majority of them don't have much ties to the East Coast or Midwest. How were they sold, that Michigan State is still the place for them? And how did these coaches go out and say, hey, have faith in me, have trust in me, that I'll get you to where you want to go?
I think one thing that a lot of recruits, regardless of the program, throw out when they talk about a coaching staff is a family feeling, right? Family atmosphere, make them feel comfortable. But I think with this staff, that's what really sticks out to them because, as I mentioned, they feel it's all authentic and genuine. You got two guys from Hawaii coming 4,400 miles away because they know that this staff is going to develop them on and off the field, take care of them, care about them as a person. That's, I think, really, and, all of them from the West Coast who, you mentioned that this staff didn't have a lot of Midwest ties, or East Coast or whatever it might be. But I think all of that, the fact that they are going to care about you and they're going to develop you and they have a plan for you, no matter where you come from, has a lot to do with it. And at Jonathan Smith's, intro presser afterward, there was a media scrum and he's asked about the Midwest ties thing and all of that. And he said that they're going to put an emphasis on it. The best way to recruit is to get into a car, drive within a 4-hour radius. And I mean, this staff literally did that and just attacked and built relationships in the state of Michigan and Ohio within, days, weeks. Like already they've built these strong connections with these different high school coaches and prospects and recruits. And people, I think, know that this staff can evaluate. And then if they want you and they make you a priority and they have a vision for you, it's an easy sell for them.
Yeah, Ryan, I've had I briefly met some of the staff today at our athletics Christmas party and just, went up there and just said, welcome to Spartan Nation, welcome to, Michigan State. And we kind of talked about just, the opportunity that they have. They see it, like you talked about, they see that this can be a great place, going back to our roots. Like this place is special. I was talking to the tight ends coach and he was like, when I was playing at Wisconsin, it was always Wisconsin, Michigan State of just bruisers. He was like, and I was telling the staff before we were coming over here, it's like, trust me, when you get in, you're going to feel that blue collar, that brick by brick, tie up your bootstraps, let's go to work. And like, you just felt that vibe talking to each of the staff. What are some surprises that we may see tomorrow that I know the coaching staff has been, yes, we've got our guys now committed, but what are the names out there that we're close to trying to get over to the green and white that we may expect tomorrow, or we're like, it's still a wee hour.
You're saying it's flip season? Was that what you're talking about? Flip season?
Flip season, yeah. Who are those names? What are those positions? And what are you hearing?
Yeah, Francis Brew, a Pittsburgh commit. He's one who had an official visit this past week, and he's been committed to Pittsburgh for a while. The old staff had him out a couple of times, and he's shown some interest in Michigan State, and I think he's really weighing his options. I don't know which way he's leaning right now. But
man, I can only imagine when
Narduzzi.
I can only imagine what Coach Narduzzi is saying right now.
He's calling up with the big chew, and you know what? I've been there. I know what they're about. I know that stadium. I know it. You want to come here? You want to play in an NFL stadium off campus?
You guys would know better than me, but based on what I heard, that seems pretty accurate.
Absolutely.
So Francis Buru, is that how you say it? Is the defensive lineman from Columbus, Ohio that you're talking about that's currently committed to Pitt that is on flip alert for Michigan State and their staff for Jonathan Smith tomorrow?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not making a prediction one way or the other. It's just that's a guy they'd really like to bring in who's showing interest in Michigan State, but also he's stayed true to Pitt this whole time. He's a really good player. Recently mentioned 4-star on Rivals, so he's definitely somebody to watch. Brady Pretzlaff from Gaylord, linebacker. He's definitely one you want to watch.
Wait a minute, yeah, that's one of those guys right there. We saw his film.
Very, very good player who's plays up there in Gaylord, so maybe is a little underrated. He told me that he plays with violence, and I think as you mentioned earlier, this program wants to get back to those blue collar roots, and I think he's kind of the epitome of that kind of player. He'll be announcing his decision tomorrow, and he's definitely one to watch. There's always some signing day surprises. You never know. I think we know pretty much everybody who's going to sign tomorrow. Like I said, there might be a couple. Tyler Cherry was a guy who they were really working on, the other quarterback. He ended up committing to Indiana today. He was recently named a 4-star on Rivals as well. But
the Center Grove quarterback, right, from Indiana?
Yeah, Indiana.
Okay. So he's got a new staff as well, right? Because didn't Tom what's his name?
Tom Allen.
Tom Allen is now the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, they brought over the James Madison coach.
Yeah. So it's James Madison's staff against Oregon State, and he stays there. But we got, who is it? Alessio Milivojevic. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Alessio Milivojevic.
He sent it to me phonetically, but I'm still going to mess it up. But I think it's Milivojevic. But yeah, so he's one of those guys. He was, committed to a MAC school, a little flying under the radar, but, just a really good player in Illinois. I think he had like 40 touchdowns compared to 4 interceptions this year, plus 9 rushing touchdowns. He can run with the ball. He can bounce around in the pocket, extend plays with his feet. Everybody I've talked to who's a talent evaluator said this guy can flat out play. I don't know why exactly he's a little lower rated or, a little under the radar recruit, but I think he's had offers from like Nebraska, maybe Mississippi. And, he's had some other Power 5 interest. He was committed to Ball State, I believe, and, decommitted from there and, committed to Michigan State after his official visit this past weekend. But, I think with some development, he's definitely a guy that would fit in really well with, this offense that Jonathan Smith and Brian Lindgren are going to run here.
Yeah, big guy too. This is the guy out of St. Francis in Illinois. This is up 6'3", 225 pounds. So big guy, big quarterback. A little different than Aiden, who has that ability to beat you with his legs and his arm. From the things I've heard from scouts is that he's a guy who's got a big time arm and very accurate, as you said, like 40 touchdowns. So excited to see him in the green and white as well. Ryan.
identified and made a target right away.
Otis, I think they're looking for some more element from you. But if you can, we can do that. So transfer wise, we're just starting there. Jordan Turner, the linebacker from Wisconsin, coming over. I think he played his prep football in Farmington Hills, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
That's a guy, before you get into him, Ryan, that's a guy that I'm really excited about. I think he fits the mold, he fits the build of a Big Ten linebacker. He's a guy that I think he's going to come in and make an immediate impact. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. I think he had like 135 career tackles, something like that, at Wisconsin.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
I think he was an all Big Ten selection at some point. He's definitely a guy who you can come in and plug and play right away at that linebacker spot. And as you mentioned, Farmington High, he has ties to Michigan. I think Jalen Berger was excited that he was coming over because they were former teammates. I saw him tweet some stuff out. So, that's definitely a guy that can come in and probably fit right in Joe Rossi's defense right away, probably play a lot. He seems like a tackling machine, a guy who's going to be very productive and, he's obviously going to be a new guy around here, but, eventually be somebody who can lead the defense.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying like he obviously middle linebacker, that's like he is a big time guy, but like could honestly kind of evolve to that stand up edge as well in this Rossi defense. They said he's a big human being. Like he looks the part. Wisconsin, we already know you got to be smash mouth football as a linebacker, regardless of who that coaching staff is. You always got to be a smash mouth player. Go ahead, Shu. I didn't mean to cut you out. I just want to add that to it.
No, you're good. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. But let's talk about, because something that I love on the offense. I love a good tight end. I love a good tight end with a good frame tight end. That's what I like. And I think this Jack guy that we have coming in, I think he fits that bill. With Malik entering the portal, we're going to have to replace a playmaker like that. But I think this guy, this Jack, he gives me, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox kind of vibes there with that, with the Buffalo Bills, a guy that can also be in there and block, but also have really good at route running as well.
Yeah, I believe he had 8 touchdowns this past year and set the Oregon State single season record for touchdowns. So he's definitely going to be a receiving threat. And you guys were talking about Aiden Childs earlier being familiar with the offense. Well, so is Velling. That's
right.
And right away and know what he's doing. He doesn't have to start from scratch. So he's definitely going to be somebody who's kind of plug and play, probably a tight end one right away. He's going to be a threat in that receiving game. I'm interested to see what he is as a blocker. I don't quite know yet. Not saying he's bad at it. I just haven't looked enough. But I definitely know that he's going to be a really good receiver.
Well, look, if he led the NCAA, go ahead.
That's what he's about to say. I was going to say that, like, that's phenomenal.
Well, he led the NCAA for tight ends with touchdowns, right? He led all tight ends in the NCAA with touchdowns, with 8 of them.
Yeah, so he's a very good route runner, very crisp, very fluid in his motion. Because sometimes you get some of those big guys, those big tight ends that kind of like lumpy down, like Gronkowski. He wasn't fluid, but he got it done. But this guy, he's very fluid in his routes, can get in and out of the breaks, very, very quick and loose hips. So that's someone that's going to be, like you said, Ryan, a guy that's a plug and play player that can come in. And you mentioned the fact with Aiden Childs coming in, and every really good quarterback, what do they have? They have a security blanket that's a tight end. You look down the line. To have that. So I think this is going to be one of Child's security blanket, and they're going to be able to, know and play off each other very well.
Yeah, obviously they played with each other last year, so they already have some built-in chemistry with each other, and so that's definitely going to help too.
I mean, Can we get Antonio Gates Jr. to bring Dad over and do a little workshop with him a little bit? Maybe, I don't know. I did see that he got his number retired at the Chargers Ring of Honor just recently. But, like as we digress, let's get back to Michigan State football with TJ Sheffield, receiver from Purdue, transferring over to Michigan State, making his commitment known.
Coach Hawk got a good one on this one.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I really like this ad. I feel like, it's a little under the radar, but he had, I think, something like 118 catches at Purdue, something like that. Very productive. And, there's a lot of balls to go around in that wide receiver room. Obviously they lost some guys in the transfer portal, and they're in need of playmakers there. I think he's, again, another guy who you can bring in right away who's going to get some reps and going to be able to make plays. And he, I think that he's definitely going to carve out a nice little role at Michigan State this year.
So are we looking right now, like, let's prediction. It's Nick Marsh, Montorie Foster, and TJ Sheffield at the three, like those three receivers. Like, that's a great trio right there. Am I missing anybody?
I think Alante Brown might be back.
Yeah, you're right. Alante Brown. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's a good four, right? That's good.
Obviously, I'm a big Nick Marsh fan. Shout out to Mama Tron, gem of a person. Just great family, great job raising that young man. He's such a talent, but he's, he cares and he wants to be here. And he did. What I really admire about Nick is that, he did everything the right way, like so respectful. Even when he decommitted, he stayed in touch with the staff the whole time. And he went through that process because he had to go through that process. That's what he told me, to know that Michigan State ultimately was the place for him, because he went out and he saw everything else and he knows that that's home. And even when the coaching staff changed, he was able to stay true because he already went through that process and he knew what it took. And Jonathan Smith came in right away and made sure he knew he was a priority. So.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be a guy that's definitely going to be a big threat for us. And then, you talk about TJ Sheffield there, a guy in the slot position. I think, Ryan, you're 100% right. I think this is an under the radar pickup for the Spartans. He's a guy that, that's a dynamic player now. What do you do with a guy like that in the slot? Because I think you can move him around, in this offense. And, what are you going to do if he's in the slot? Are you going to slide a linebacker out to cover him? Or are you going to walk a safety down to cover him? Or are you going to play nickel defense? If you do that, you have lighter guys on the field, and now it opens up the run game. So the way that this offense is starting to shape up, it's something that's really special, and Spartan fans should be really excited about it. And I think, to your point, Ryan, that's an under the radar pickup. And I think that's a steal in this recruiting class.
And he's got experience as a returner too. So, he could also be somebody who makes an impact on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ryan, Austin, like, I know we're on receivers. Austin Clay out of Cleveland, that's the land of Montorie from Cleveland as well.
Right.
Talk about him, because all-purpose yards out of Ohio, 1,600 all-purpose yards. And, I mean, you're all first-team Ohio. That's a huge feat coming from the state of Ohio football-wise. But, like, talk about Austin Clay as a young freshman coming in.
Yeah, talk about an under-the-radar pickup. This was, a guy who they just offered late in the process earlier this month. He was another guy committed to a MAC school, I believe Bowling Green. And, again, another guy who can make, I don't know if he'll do it as a freshman or not, but, throughout at some point in his career, he's a guy who can definitely be a dangerous returner. He's got good speed. He runs track too. He also plays basketball. I think he set a school record recently for steals in a game, and he ranks like in the top 3 in steals and assists in program history. But so he's kind of like an all-around athlete. He's a smaller guy, but I think he plays big. He told me he's got a big catch radius, which was interesting to me because he told me he was like 6 foot, 160 pounds. So I think he plays maybe bigger than he is, and he makes plays. And I think really, really good under the radar ad for Coach Hawk, who can develop him. And Coach Hawk's one of the best developers of wide receivers out there. Great, I think great choice by Coach Smith to bring him back. And I think it might take some development with him, but I think he's got a really good skill set. And I think those kind of guys kind of thrive in Jonathan Smith Lingard's offense. These under the radar guys that, might not be super highly recruited, they made super productive at Oregon State. So, definitely keep an eye on him in the future.
And this is a guy that you had a nice article on, by the way, Ryan, in Spartans Illustrated. We're going to try to get it up, a link to the article up in our chat right now for everyone to see. That there was a great article covering, Austin Clay and his commitment with, Jonathan Smith and Courtney Hawkins, who just was retained. I mean, the news just broke about, less than a week ago that he was going to be still coaching the green and white as a receivers coach. So, I mean, it's awesome. Reading for you, and don't forget to go back to Spartans Illustrated. This is where you and David Harns, all those guys, you guys are working hard over there, tracking down these recruits, making personal relationships with them to understand where they're going to be going. And a lot of times they don't happen to come to Michigan State, but you still do the work that people, wish they could do. I mean, I think it's kind of a dream job. Tell us what it's like reaching out to all these kids all over the country.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I'm only a little over a year into doing this role. I think, I've learned a lot along the way. Big shout out to, the other guys in my field who cover Michigan State, like Corey Robinson, Justin Thin, Jason Killip. Those guys have all been tremendous helping me out. But yeah, I think you mentioned it. For me, it's all about relationship building, right? Like, I think there are some people who might just want to reach out to kids kind of short with them, just want to get information, just try to get quotes, see what they're doing. For me, it's never been about that. It's always been about building a relationship, but I want them to be able to trust me to tell their story. And, a lot of recruits have told me that they really appreciate the way that I go about it and do that. And it is, it's not a job that's easy. It's a lot of hours. I've lost track of how many articles I've written this week alone, let alone in the last couple, because, they're on such a roll recruiting wise. But yeah, I mean, so for me, I hope that, people know when I reach out, it's always genuine. It's never just about what I'm trying to get for me. Obviously, I want the story and I want to, be able to tell that story for you. But I want people to know that, I'm here to help you, get known, to tell your story, to let you know. And, like you said, whether you commit to Michigan State or not, and, I built a relationship with you, I'm always here for you, whatever you need. If I can help one way or the other, that's what I'm here to do.
So, Ryan, me personally, I think I'm 3-0, maybe 4-0 on my crystal ball predictions.
Here we go with that.
So,
3-0,
when I do I'm not going to ask you for your number or anything like that, your percentage. But when I do my crystal ball prediction, I like to go off feel. What I read, what I see, how I see the guys, conduct themselves on social, how I see them move and everything like that. That's how I go off my crystal ball prediction. When you're looking at this to make a crystal ball, do you, if you do make a crystal ball prediction, what goes into that? Like, just from, in all seriousness, I'm joking around with my stuff, but in all seriousness, outside, when people are making these crystal ball predictions, what goes into that? What are some of the formula that goes into making that prediction?
Honestly, yeah, I don't put in predictions myself. I'll drop hints in our message forum and stuff like that. And I don't, no shade to the people who do them. I think, that's good and that's good for them. But for me personally, it's kind of twofold why I don't like to do them. One, a lot of the recruits, a lot of the parents I've talked to don't necessarily like when that comes out before their announcement. Obviously some don't care as much and they give permission and whatnot, but others might care a little more. And then, and then the other reason too is just recruiting is so fluid in this day and age with NIL, with the transfer portal, with everything, all the movement going around. So, but it is a feel thing for me. Like when I know a kid is going to commit, and I have hints about that or whatever, or I do. Like I said, it's about building trust. So a lot of times they'll tell me ahead of time that they are planning to commit, or they're going to, or that they're leaning heavy toward Michigan State or whatever it might be. I don't like I said, I don't have any issue with people who do predictions or crystal balls or anything like that. I think they're great. They generate a lot of buzz, and some kids like them and like that extra attention, and some kids don't. And so I just kind of stay out of it.
Hey, Ryan, have you had, like, you talk to a lot of parents, you talk to a lot of recruits, but, like, have you had the ones where you could be like, nah, man, like, he's not a fit for Michigan State, or just period? Like, can you put a pinpoint on after having interaction, like, yeah, this guy's not a good guy or a good nugget? Like, have you had those instances?
I mean, it's happened, but I was honestly,
you can't be like putting that on like press release or talking bad.
Honestly,
which kid do you not like?
Yeah, like, which one? It's like, avoid.
Honestly, what I will say is these high school kids, honestly, they impress me so much with just, not only how intelligent and mature they are, a lot of them, but just, I mean, you guys went through the recruiting process, right? So you would know better than me, but I couldn't imagine having that much pressure on me, having that, those kind of decisions to make, and especially for higher rated recruits who everybody's out there. But a lot of the times when I talk to these kids, I come away so impressed with, just how well that they grasp the situation that they're going through, and how they, like I said, are just so mature. I go back to Nick Marsh, just so much respect for the way he handled that process and how mature he is. But so many of these kids that are committed to Michigan State, they strike me the same way. I'm like, these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who, and they don't have it all figured out. Like, they have a lot to learn still, but they understand that, and they know what it takes to get where they want to go, and they know who's going to get them there. And that's, part of the stuff that they're figuring out. And of course, NIL and stuff like that factor into it too, nowadays. But, still, for the most part, what a lot of these kids are looking for are a connection, a fit, a staff that's going to develop them, just as much off the field, if not on the field, because not everybody's going to make it to the NFL. And I think, so again, yeah, I just walk away really impressed with a lot of interactions. Like I said, there have been some guys where haven't had those feelings exactly for, but for the most part, most of these kids are more, in that line of thinking that I've interacted with.
And that's a great point. You brought up something earlier in our conversation, Ryan, that, what the best way to learn how to recruit, rather, is to get in the car and just drive 4 hours away and get those relationships with those high school coaches. That's what Jonathan Smith said at his press conference, and that's what he's been doing. When you look at the commitments that have come in over the last, 48, 72 hours, there's a big footprint. And I know a lot of this has to do with where they're from. But you see a running back, Brandon Tellis, out of Frisco, Texas. Andrew Brinson, an athlete out of Tampa, Florida. 2 recruits out of Hawaii. We touched on those guys earlier. Idaho, Washington, Missouri. I mean, it's a pretty big footprint, and, a lot of culture coming into East Lansing, led by the man in charge, Jonathan Smith. So tell us your feelings on how that will impact the locker room at Michigan State.
I think that they're bringing in guys too, that they're making sure our character fits, our program fits. Andrew Brinson's a great kid from Florida. Blue Adams has the connections down there. But that whole defensive back room coming in with Brinson, Jalen Thompson, Keyshawn Williams, Justin Denson, like, those guys are all Blue Adams. Just impressed them so much in a short period of time that they just all feel locked in. And, all the kids I talked to throughout the different areas that they're all coming from, Tolis and Frazier coming from Texas. Like I said, they all have that same feeling that, they had that familiarity with the staff. So I think that they're targeting certain guys who they know are going to fit in, no matter where they come from, no matter what their background are. So, I think that it's good to have a mix of different people, different backgrounds, coming from all over the, different all over the country. And, they all bring different skill sets. They're all bring something different to the table. They're all coming ready to work. So, I think that it's very calculated who they're bringing in. And I think, at least they think that these guys are all going to be great for the locker room. And, they'll see how they mesh eventually. So obviously going to be a little bit different once they actually get there and see how everybody kind of gels in. And some guys might be a little more outgoing. Some guys might be a little more quiet. But, these are all guys who they think are going to help them win. But they also are guys who they think are going to mesh well with the team and in the locker room.
Hey, Ryan, have you heard anything about certain guys that hit the portal from our past roster that possibly are leaning to come back? Like we talked about it on our show last show, like, hey, you hit the portal and you're not getting the love that you thought you deserved, or your value is not as high as you thought. But are you hearing any of those guys that hit the portal coming back, leaning to say, hey, I've met with the staff, I do want to give it a shot, let me get out the portal? Have you heard any of those rumblings?
I think that's something that the staff's done really well of. You've already seen a couple guys jump out of the portal and come back in. Other guys now that I'm still keeping an eye on who could come back are Zion Young, Derek Harmon, Jacoby Windman. I've heard that's on the table for those three and maybe some others. Like you said, the portal is, when you jump in there, you're taking a risk. There are more kids in the portal than there are spots available. So, another thing Smith said after his intro presser was that, their first order of business was re-recruiting the current roster. Those guys, guys jumping in the portal, guys thinking jumping in the portal. Another thing that Smith preached was equal opportunity for everybody on the roster. He was a walk-on at Oregon State, right? He wasn't supposed to go on and be one of the program's all-time leading passers by the time he left. So I think him being that walk-on is what kind of built that blue-collar attitude he has, that chip on the shoulder. He's coming from Oregon State, so he knows all about being, the state school when there's another bigger school, rival in the state. So I don't think, maybe there were some guys who they prefer back more than others, but, I definitely think it's on the table. I definitely think they're open to it if the players are. So, there's a few guys who could come back. They might not. They might find other spots, but yeah, it's kind of, just what it is. They're going to try to build the best possible roster they can. And whether that means bringing guys back who were there previously or finding other guys in the portal, I think you can trust the staff to do that.
True.
Good stuff. I'm just looking in the chat here and seeing some stuff. Welcome, John Blair. And I see people talking about the woodshed. And Spartan Stadium being referred to as the woodshed. I remember me specifically, the first time I heard Spartan Stadium being referred to as the woodshed was from Mad Dog Charlie Thornhill. He was the one that told me, hey, Spartan Stadium, that's the woodshed. And they had this little clip there that's like, no one comes into our house and pushes us around. Take them to the woodshed. And that's what that team's rally cry was. So that was
internal, though, not an external.
That was internal. That was something
mantra.
That was just among players was said. That was like, that's what they called Spartan Stadium amongst players. And obviously Mel came and brought it outward. So I was just going through the chat there and looking at people saying there about the woodshed, and that's something that was an internal thing with the players, similar to Spartan Dawgs. That was a player thing only, and then it took a life on its own and got commercialized as well.
For now,
yeah. Hey Ryan, with people want to know, like, future, like, what do you believe is going to take for us to turn, quick? Like, what is the expectations? So, like, everybody wants to win now. We know it's going to take some time, but what do you believe?
Next year look like?
What is next year, like spring leading into fall? Like, what do you feel like we should be seeing or expecting? Because we want to set expectations, but like, I feel like we go quickly to like, oh, we about to be, undefeated
playoffs,
playoffs versus
12 teams.
Well, what's the stack? I know. What's the stacking? Like, what's the process of taking over a new system or new program and getting it back to where, we were prominent. What are your feelings about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, college football is a "what have you done for me lately" thing. So, you become irrelevant pretty quickly in this landscape. And I think what you're looking for, in Smith's first year is, first of all, you want to see a team that's competitive. Even if they're losing games, are they close? Are they making it competitive? Can you see what the plan is by looking at that team? Can you see the vision? I think it reminds me in a lot of ways of Mark D'Antonio and the way that he built things in that blue collar approach. And I think Jonathan Smith's the exact right person to do it, because he took over a 1-11 program at Oregon State.
Mm-hmm.
He went 18-7 over the last 2 years. That's not an easy place to do that at.
Right.
He has much better resources at Michigan State. He has, he's bringing in the guys that he wants. It's like you said, it's going to take some time. I don't think it's fair. I think people need to show patience, and that's hard to do as a football fan. But I think what you want to see next year, is at least a bowl game, 6-7 wins, something like that. And like I said, competitive, close losses, and something that's going to illustrate what the plan is, what the identity of the team, what the identity of the program under Smith's going to look like. I think that, it's very possible within 2 to 3 years with the expanded playoff, you see MSU competing for, one of those 12 spots within a couple of years. I can't predict that. I can't say that now, but I think that, that's definitely within the realm of possibility because of the transfer portal and the way that, that they're going to think of, if they were able to recruit the way that they did in 3 weeks or less, think about what they're going to do when they have a full year to recruit a class and get their guys in. And like I said, people that you talk to about this staff, they said they know talent, they identify talent, and they develop it. So that's what, obviously that's what they're going to try to do in East Lansing. And, you don't know what's going to happen until it happens, but I think that it's very clear what they're going to do here. And I think it's very fair to think that, Smith is going to eventually return this team to, chasing championships. That's his goal, that he said multiple times, is that he's had, and that's was one of the driving factors that he took this job, is because he's had an urge to chase championships, and he feels like he can do that at Michigan State. And like I said, everybody I talked to says that he's authentic. He's as real as it gets. He's not like a bells and whistles guy. He just goes to work. And I think that that's the right, that's what Michigan State is all about, right? That's what the program is. That's what that blue collar thing, that they talk about. That's the identity of Michigan State football. So I think he's a perfect fit. I think he's the right guy to do it. Whether it comes to fruition or not, we'll find out. But I think there's a good chance that it will.
Hey, look, that's beautiful what you said there, especially about the recruiting piece, because, there's those out here on the West Coast that talk about, well, the only reason he was able to get the Michigan State job is because of DJ Uiagalelei that came over, the 5-star quarterback that was at Clemson that transferred over. Now, there's another way of looking at that, and you just touched on it right there. You said it. That guy, a 5-star quarterback, 2-year starter at Clemson, can go anywhere in the country. But he didn't just choose Corvallis, Oregon, because he threw a dart, literally. It's because of what this staff showed him. It's the plan, the vision that they laid out. And you're seeing that in a very short time with, the cards they've been dealt, and they're putting together a class that's going to be respectable. But as you said, Ryan, can't wait to see what this staff can do over a season. We'll be able to build relationships around this Midwestern area and beyond, and, put some product on the field. And, you got guys like Aiden Childs and Nick Marsh, and a lot of other very important pieces that we're going to cover tomorrow on our show. But like, we want to just thank you, number one, for being here today.
Appreciate
to tell
you,
us, man, like, this has been great. And where can we find you again? Tell us your X/Twitter handle.
Yeah, it's at Ryan O'Bleness, RyanObleness. Obviously, you can find us at Spartans Rivals on Twitter too, SpartansIllustrated.com or MichiganState.rivals.com. We've been busy and we got the content flowing. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Ryan, can I get that free subscription?
Yeah,
Right. Make that happen.
All right. We appreciate you. Thank you, Ryan.
Keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.